Hey downtown van. Hey downtown van.
Hey downtown van.
Hey downtown van.
Hey downtown van.
Hey downtown van.
You're listening to Hey Downtown Van, hosted by the Downtown Vancouver BIA. Hey Downtown Van, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Sofia Laratta, and today's guest is Chef Angus An. Chef Angus is an award-winning Vancouver chef, restaurateur, and cookbook author known for his modern take on Thai cuisine. Combining classical French training with authentic Thai flavors and West Coast ingredients, he has become one of Canada's leading culinary voices through his acclaimed restaurants and passion for sharing Thai culture through food. He owns one of my favorite, if not my favorite restaurants in the city, Fat Mao. So I'm super excited to have him on the podcast today, and we hope you enjoy the episode. All right, Chef Angus, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
I'm so excited that you are here because I think I told you this the last time we met, but Fat Mao is my favorite restaurant in the city.
I'm honored, honestly. It's also the place that I own that I go to the most. So
really?
Yeah. It's
Both
just
locations?
comforting. Yeah, both. We try to switch it up, or else they get a bit jealous.
Fair.
That one is getting more attention from dad than the other. So yeah.
I love that. Okay, so for the people that might not know your story, tell us about your journey. You can even start from when you were young. What got you into the culinary world and made you want to be a chef?
Yeah, so I was born in Taiwan. We moved here when I was around 10 or 11. But growing up, I've always just remembered, I think most people's family would go out for good meals. We were the opposite. Like we go out, because in Asia, people often just work a lot. So we go out for sort of regular, easy stuff. But any kind of special occasions, we would stay in and my parents would cook like a big meal. So it was always really exciting. Like anytime like Chinese New Year's, my parents would make dumplings from scratch. Even, we'll roll out the dough and do everything. And I just love that feeling of like everyone sort of in the kitchen busy and the anticipation of a really good meal. So starting from a young age, I was really, really interested in food. And always sort of when that happens, you see like relatives or friends come over. There's always a big party and gathering. So, I sort of knew that good food always brought people together.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really, fascinated by it. So throughout sort of my childhood, I've always had good memories of food. And like I was always sort of mess around in the kitchen. I remember my mom teaching me how to fry an egg. In Asia, in Taiwan at the time, everyone has like a wok kitchen. So, like it's sort of closer to outside. It's a tiny kitchen for most places, in Asia. So I remember like using a little stepladder or stool and barely see over the wok and frying an egg in a wok.
Cute.
And I think that was one of the first things I learned how to cook with my mom. And I think it was grade 1. And then my mom taught me how to make like ketchup fried rice, which is kind of funny.
I love that.
Yeah. And so, I've always was fascinated. Like we moved here and I went to high school in Maple Ridge. And
Okay.
I think as soon as I could work, every single job I had was in restaurants. And that sort of brought the second chapter where like I was always enchanted by this sort of hustle in the kitchens and sort of the vibe and everyone sort of working together. So pretty much every single job I've ever had was in restaurants.
Mm-hmm.
I got my driver's license. I decided to like deliver Chinese food. But whenever there was no deliveries, I would always sort of grab a knife and help chop vegetables with the chefs. And I just thought that was really nice vibe. And when I got into university, I actually wanted to be an architect.
Interesting.
So I went to UBC for fine arts, and then eventually I was picking up some different shifts here and there cooking. Eventually, sort of my passion for food just took over. It's like, like I don't think I want to be an architect anymore. I enjoy arts. I enjoy design and all of that stuff. But I do think that, cooking is what I really wanted to do. My parents convinced me to kind of finish my arts degree. So I have a degree in fine arts from UBC.
Cool.
Which is a funny story because through my journey in UBC, one of my professors is Ken Lum, which is one of the most well-known Vancouver Canadian artist.
Wow.
He was my professor at the time, and he was a big foodie. Through sort of our exit interviews, they're trying to figure out who is going to go into Master of Fine Arts and who's going to go into different programs. And I think they were slightly worried about me because like I wasn't a good enough artist to get into the master's program, but they didn't know what I wanted to do. But I was talking to Ken, it's like I'm going to go into cooking. And I, at the same time, had a sort of a graduation project around food. I did a series of photographs dishes that I created that sort of that in trip at Vancouver.
Cool.
And he looked at it and was like, oh, I can tell you're really talented. I'm like, Ken, you just looked at pictures. You didn't even try my food. I don't even know if I'm talented or not. I'm going to find out. He's like, well, let's keep in touch. So I kept in touch with Ken when I went to New York. So after UBC, I went to New York for culinary school.
Mm-hmm.
The time is called French Culinary Institute. And, I was there for about a year. I moved to Montreal because I wanted to learn French food. And I moved to Montreal and worked at Restaurant Tokay. We were on the old Saint Denis location, and I helped them open the new location downtown.
Cool.
It was probably one of my greatest experiences in a professional kitchen. It was just everything so organized. Normand has some of the best produce available to him.
Wow.
This is like 25 years ago,
Mhm.
and before all the I think he really started sort of that movement. Like during service, we'll have mushroom pickers knock on the doors. We have
Wow.
foragers knock on the door, wildflowers. And, this is before Noma even started, existing, right? So
Mhm.
we were very fortunate, during summer season, we have like 30 different heirloom varieties of strawberries arrive, and we
Wow.
would have to like clean. So it was just, I was so blessed to be in that kitchen. We did whole animal butchery. So my station would be in charge of breaking down whole deers, whole sides of venison,
Wow.
veal, dry aging our own stuff. It was just a lot of cool things to learn as a young cook,
Mhm.
and that really inspired me to after about almost 3 years, I decided to move to Europe.
Mhm.
And in the meanwhile, I always sort of send an email to Ken Lum, like, oh, I'm at this restaurant, I'm at this restaurant. And he was always sort of impressed because he's a foodie, so he knows that the restaurants that I'm working at.
Cool.
And I moved to Europe. I started working in a few sort of Michelin star French restaurants again, but I didn't get the same feeling I had in Montreal. The kitchen in Tokay was very sort of zen-like, peaceful. The brigade was really strong. Everyone knew what they're doing.
Mhm.
Was very much about the ingredients, about the food. But when I was in Europe, it just felt very chaotic.
Mm.
People see on TV how Gordon Ramsay act. It's actually very
Accurate?
similar. There's a lot of chefs just being physical with each other,
Ooh.
yelling, and was everyone's for themselves. People get in early to hide utensils so other people can use them.
Wow.
The deliveries come. People have to go and fight for ingredients, or else it's not enough for every station. And it just felt very complete opposite from what I was used to. So I was very sort of down and out and very disappointed.
Mhm.
Then I decided to go. My roommate in Montreal also moved to London, and he was Australian. So he knew who David Thompson was. He was a world-renowned Thai chef, and he got a job at Nam, which was at the time the only Michelin star Thai restaurant in the world.
Wow.
He's like, why don't you just come to Nam and check it out? It's Thai food. And it's like, oh, I don't know if I want to learn Thai food. I want to continue on. But he's like, oh, you don't have anything to do and you're sort of in between jobs. Just come because David is really amazing. The food is really, really amazing. And at the time, I didn't know. I just thought Thai food, because I never had any good Thai food, was not something I was interested. So I
Mhm.
went and I was just blown away by the flavors, the techniques, David's way of explaining things, his way with words. He can put flavor into words and explain how things can taste.
Mm.
And I think that's the biggest thing I learned from him was, the difference between sort of Western cooking and Asian cooking. And I'm saying Asian cooking in general because Thai cooking obviously is what I was learning, but
Mhm.
it kind of reminded me of how my grandmother cooked, how my mom cooked. It's not
Mhm.
about 1 teaspoon of this, 1 pinch of that. Like it's just you taste until it tastes
Good.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they all know they have to. It's a very intuitive way of cooking. Is what I was always explaining to people. Just every Thai know what that dish should taste like, and then they will season it to complexity, to balance, to layer the flavors. And so I was just blown away, and I was offered a job, and I took it. I was like, I do want to learn this, and at the time, I wanted to use that to apply into my Western sort of toolkit
Mhm.
because I kind of figure I was the saucier, which is like I was in charge of butchery and sauces at Tokay, but mostly when I'm making sauces, it's about a reduction of something. It's about seasoning with salt and pepper. Sometimes we get to experiment with gastriques, which are sort of a sugary vinegar reduction, but like it's always very simple in
Mhm.
seasoning.
Mhm.
Whereas Thai food, you're seasoning with flavor, right? So
Mhm.
it's a balance of hot, sour, sweet, salty, sometimes bitter, and you use all of that to layer and build and season into a dish. And it's very different than working in a Western restaurant where like, oh, season your fish is salt and pepper and you
Yeah.
sear it, whatever. a lot of it is more, the focal point is not on the fish itself, it's more on about the dish itself, right? So that was really interesting. I want to have that profile in my arsenal when I'm eventually ready to open my own restaurant, which happened in 2006. It's actually 20 years ago, right?
Wow.
So I moved back here with my wife, who I met at Nam. We moved back. I sent Ken an email saying, hey, I'm coming back. He wanted to get together. We chatted, and he was like, and he said over dinner to me, he's like, there's not a lot of good independent restaurants. When you're ready to open a restaurant, like, I want to invest in you. I'm like, Ken, like, I kind of felt like in our school, I didn't try it as hard. I figured in my mind, I just got to get through this because I'm going to go into cooking. So I feel like, he must think I don't have good work ethic because I didn't really try that hard in school. But he saw something in me. He's like, no, I want to invest. I'm like, you haven't tried my food yet. He's like, no, it's okay. Like, I could tell, as well as I could tell with all the places that you worked through.
Yeah.
You must have done some, because they're hard places, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so, with him and with the support of my family, I decided to move back and we start looking for a location. And the location I've always really, really liked was Kids, right? Because I was going to UBC and I was always in an area that I was really fascinated by it. So there was a location that was available a couple of blocks away from Bishop's, and I was like, oh, that's got to be the spot. So we were able to sort of get renovated, and open Gastropod, my first concept, which is a modern European concept. It did really well. We won Best New Fine Dining Restaurant, Van Meg, the year we opened. A lot of things went really well. It was the food I wanted to cook, sort of ingredients-driven food with a lot of Asian techniques and seasoning. However, I think in the recession and the housing crisis of like 2008, which is only a couple years after we opened, we were losing a lot of money. At the time, we knew there was a shortage of Thai restaurants in town. Because, we had just come back from working for a Michelin star Thai restaurant. My wife is Thai. We were always looking for a Thai restaurant to try, but we just felt like the level could be better. And we were looking for ingredients. I had at that time been actively looking for how to get better ingredients, and I think we were doing a good job because we are pretty fortunate that here there's a huge Asian community. Right? So around 2008, we were like, okay, well, hopefully Gastropod can get better because the recession had just started. Maybe let's look for a casual Thai restaurant. Because, I think at the time you're always thinking, oh, fine dining is not much money to be made. So maybe we need to have a casual restaurant to support it. But eventually, as the crisis got worse, we were losing more and more money. And instead of finding another location to open another restaurant, I just woke up one day and said, you know what, we just got to do this fast because we got to literally change concepts, pivot, and reopen in like maybe 3 weeks. That's how much money we have left.
Wow.
Otherwise, so I think at that time the landlord was quite okay. So I had a couple of months of back rent, and it was obviously dealt with afterwards. But we pivoted. We opened. We switched from Gastropod to Mainam within about 2 weeks span, and never went back. And at that time, the food was quite simple. It was sort of the Thai food, what people think Thai food would be. Pad Thai, papaya salad, Penang curry, green curry. And I think in the last 17 years that we've been there, we have evolved a lot more. I think we've done a lot more dishes. And I think in the last 17 years too, I mean, since then we opened obviously a lot more concepts that we can get to later. But one thing I noticed is that people are more familiar with Thai. There's a lot more Thai restaurants now compared to before. And so much so we opened Sainom, which is Isan focused, right? So we can even get to a point where we can hyper focus on a region of food, which is one of my favorite regions. So I guess in a nutshell, that's sort of my journey today.
Yeah, very cool. I always wondered how you grew up in Taiwan and then started making Thai food, but it makes sense now.
Yeah. But I think people don't realize, but in Thailand, there's a big melting pot of flavor too, right? So one of the big areas is Thai Chinese, because no matter where you go in Asia and Southeast Asia, there's Chinese people everywhere. So Thai Chinese is actual like a section of Thai cuisine itself. A lot of dishes in Thai food kind of has a tangent or a derivative from Chinese food. If you look at Pad Thai as an example, there's dry radish, there's dry shrimp, there's Chinese chives. that is a very Chinese dish, right? So there's a lot of tie-ins, which I think these are little things that I find. It's like when I was learning Thai food, for example, there would be dishes that we would make at Nam, or David would be telling us something, and I would see something similar to what my mom have done, right? So it's so a lot of the food in Thailand that is Thai Chinese is from Chaozhou. So it's a region of China, and I think we also get some of that different dishes in Taiwan as well, like Hakka flavors as well. So
Cool.
it was nice for me to see and sort of sometimes overlap them.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was sort of the journey, and we've been cooking Thai food ever since.
Yeah, I love Maenam too. I was there not long ago, maybe like a month ago, and it's
thank you.
so good. Yeah, I'm obsessed. I do have a question about, you were saying your experience working in, was it London? Was more chaotic than working in Montreal. Why do you think the culture is so different in Europe?
I think since then it's much better, but at that time, this is like 20, 30 years ago, kitchen life is just chaotic. I was doing 18-hour days.
Wow.
I would get to work at like 7 a.m, and we won't be done till 1 o'clock at night. It was just push.
Crazy.
That's what it means to be a Michelin star kitchen, right? Like you push and it was chaotic, and I think the exhaustion, the adrenaline really pushed people either way. It make and break people, and people get. I've seen people get violent and obsessed and
Wow.
aggressive and all those things. But I think in our industry, I think a few years ago, you see a lot of top chefs being canceled for still acting that way to this day, right? So our industry is obviously changing for the better.
Yeah.
But back then, I think a lot of things that you see on TV, the yelling, the screaming, the things throwing. I mean, it's not uncommon, right? But it wasn't like that in Montreal. Like Normand is such a peaceful chef. Like no one really raises their voice in the kitchen. Like it's just peace and quiet when you're working. And
It's been a big difference, like a
it was
shock.
Big difference. And I remember calling Normand when I was in Europe. I was like, oh. And, we kept in touch, right? And it was like, oh, I'm really disappointed. Like, I would thought that, being in your kitchen for this many years, all the produce, I imagine it'll be the same, if not better here in Europe. But a lot of people are using frozen fruit, frozen foie gras, whereas like we're getting 30 different varieties of heirloom strawberries. And at that time, I didn't understand. Like, oh man, all these strawberries are so beautiful. I'm like trying to sneak some in my mouth when I'm in the fridge. But a lot of times we have to process them. We have to puree them. I'm like, oh, they're so beautiful. Why are we just pureeing them? But at the end, I realized it was because then we can have strawberries to use in the winter to make sorbets. And we're not buying frozen stuff like other people are. So, sometimes you have to see the worst things to appreciate the best things.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Very, very interesting. So you had Maenam, and then you opened Fat Mao in Chinatown.
It was Longtail first. In New West,
nice,
and then Fat Mao in Chinatown. So these smaller concepts were sort of brought at a time where I was still very nervous about the restaurant business, because we nearly lost everything with Gastropod, and Maenam opened in 2009, and we were doing okay. We were busy, but we were still in debt, and so I wasn't so sure about opening another restaurant or whatever. My partner Mark came to me. He's like, "Oh, let's do a casual concept out in New West." And I think at the time I was more okay. Well, it has to be small because rent in Vancouver is quite big.
Yeah.
And I think it has to be small. It has to be casual. And I've always been fascinated by the street food culture. Like I think you go anywhere in Asia and you go to a vendor, and it's often just like 3-4 things on a menu. They don't overcomplicate it, but you go there for that 1, 2, 3 things. And so we opened Longtail for something super, super small. And then eventually, a couple years after that, we found a location in Chinatown that really suited to a noodle bar concept, right? And so that's how Fat Mao was born.
And then you just recently opened, kind of recently, the Fat Mao location downtown. Has it been about 3 years now?
I think it's about 3 years. Yeah.
So what made you want to switch into the downtown core?
To be honest, Fat Mao took a few years to really get steady. I think at first people didn't understand the concept of it's only 5 noodles. And people don't get it. And also, in Chinatown was kind of hard. People were like, oh, I can pay $8 for wonton noodles. Why am I paying this for this?
Right.
It took us a few years to get traction. And during COVID, it actually brought in a new avenue of income for us because I never did takeout for Fat Mao because it's soup noodles. And I was like, well, I don't want to, it doesn't travel well.
Yeah.
And in Thailand, people separate the soup and the noodles, but it's a lot of packaging, right?
Mm-hmm.
But through COVID, we could only do takeout, and we started doing takeout menu for Fat Mao.
Yeah.
And it was really popular. Like it started really, because Fat Mao's footprint is very small for both locations, and I think it'll continue to be that way. It's 25 seats, but we rely on heavy turnover. But it doesn't matter how many times you turn them over. That's a very limited amount of seating. But takeout, there's no seating needing. So having that takeout introduced really brought in a new aspect of the business. And then I think during COVID, with the introduction of takeout, and when we reopened dine-in, Fat Mao was struggling to keep up because it's very tiny. It's a 725 square feet location with no walk-in and everything. We buy everything fresh from Chinatown every day.
Wow.
So we were struggling to keep up with prep. And so often we would have to close in the middle of the day just because we sold out for lunch, and we have to like buy everything, make everything fresh. It's an induction-only kitchen for both locations. And the thing with induction is they're electric, and we have to make stocks overnight. And when we open, we strain the stocks, and we then basically are busy throughout the day. So the inductions never really get any time to rest.
Right.
So we were burning out these $5,000 unit induction burners left and right, and I was buying so many extras as backups. So the wall center came to me. He's like, well, I have a space I think would be perfect for Fat Mao if you're interested in opening another one. And I said to him, like, well, the only way I would open a Fat Mao is if I have a commissary kitchen, because we need to produce and help alleviate the prep from the cooks there because they can't keep up.
Right.
And they're breaking down the kitchen they have because it's too small. So I was like, oh, if I have a commissary kitchen, I can do another location pretty easily. And so my friend Sasha was a GM at the time. He looked at me, he's like, oh, I actually do have a space for you to use as a commissary kitchen.
Wow.
So if you can use that kitchen, will you open a Fat Mao downstairs? I'm like, oh, hold on, let me go take a look first. But eventually that's what happened because we needed the prep space.
Yep.
We needed a place where we can produce the broth, the curries and whatnot, and then just have the cooks focus on the takeout and the dine-ins instead of having to cook for 200 customers a day in a 25-seat restaurant, still having to make, soup for the next day. Because, I mean, you can't, stuff like the braised chicken, the duck, you can't make them to order. You have to prep them, and they need time to simmer, right?
Yep.
So that's how Fat Mao 2 was born during COVID.
Wow.
And yeah.
People don't realize how much effort it takes to make soup like that.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy, but it isn't, right? Because it's always about building flavor. And a lot of people's like, oh, you have khao soi, right? The khao soi chicken. Like, why can't you do khao soi beef? I'm like, well, to be honest, the reason we only do one thing, and it's like that in all my restaurants, all my curries are meant, because the khao soi chicken, I fry the curry and I braise the chicken in the curry. So then the chicken get the flavor of the curry and the curry get the flavor of the chicken. Like, what's the point of me taking that chicken out and then add beef? Like, or what is the point of me just making a khao soi base and then putting raw chicken in there to order it? You don't get the same experience.
Right.
So that's why I think it's very simple, but it takes a little bit of work, right? And I think when you do things at scale, it takes a bit of learning too. So obviously we were used to making, say, 100 portions a day. Now we're making 300 portions a day. Like, there's the adjustment is not always linear. So, you have to have a really good chef intuition to know. And luckily our chef, Sai, she has good experience in commissary kitchens in Thailand before, and she was really able to help us scale that. So that's good.
And it's also cool that the Wall Center wanted you to open Fat Mao. Like, they asked you specifically to open it in there. Yeah,
but I think he knew the space and he knew the size of it, and he knew sort of like it would be suited for Fat Mao. And I think I was a bit worried at first because, like, oh, Fat Mao just got steady. Like, it took us a couple of years and it's just got here. And and it's relatively close to Chinatown, but I was fortunate that the minute we opened our doors, like it was packed. I think it's just people already knew about the name, the close proximity to the West End and Yaletown. Like we're right in the middle, right? And then obviously during the day we get the hospital staff still, and and also the Thai consulate general is right above us.
Oh, no way.
So they come downstairs a lot. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I'm probably also like 500 of those customers in a month.
Thank you.
I make up for a lot of it. So when you create a new restaurant, I guess, what comes first? Is it just a vibe? Is it a story? How do you open up a new space?
To be honest, it's a little bit different every time I do something. Just because sometimes we might have a concept in our mind that we wanted to do for a while. Sometimes we might have a name in our head for a restaurant that we want to do for a while. But often, when a location come up and you look at it, does it work? So it's not always, for example, Fat Mao Chinatown. We didn't know we want to do a soup noodle kitchen. The space came up first. We got the space, and through the restrictions of what we can do, because it's underneath of a concrete tower, we can't put any regular venting, so we can only do steam vent, which limits us to only soup kitchens.
Interesting.
So we can only do soup noodles. And then the concept developed into sort of this front-facing, sort of like a typical Chinatown wonton noodle place where the chefs are always in the front blanching noodles. And originally we wanted to do sort of this Thai Chinese noodle bar, which I mean still is. So that one was more dictated by location. With obviously the downtown one is we already have the brand and we have everything. So it was dictated by sort of location and what people wanted as well. In the case of Sainam, our new restaurant in the West End, the Angus An restaurant, we wanted to do a Angus An restaurant for a while, and we had the name Sainam for a while. Mainam means river, right? So it's a constant flow of water, which is the strongest element in sort of Buddhism. Sainam means creek, so it's sort of like a downriver little sister of Mainam. So we had this, beautiful name Sainam in the back of our minds. We were toying between a vegetarian Thai concept or a Isan style northeastern Thai concept, and when we sort of saw the West End as a possible location, we really wanted Isan because Isan is sort of the largest region in Thailand, the poorest region, which brings the food to be the most humble, the most rustic, the most sort of robust and big flavors, and I think would suit that area really, really well. So that's ultimately what we decided on. So it's a little bit different. I think you can't get caught up in just like, squeezing a round peg in a square hole or whatever. Like, you can't get caught up in having fixated on a concept and then having to squeeze it into a location that doesn't work. Yeah. Sometimes, it's easier for us to say because we have multiple locations. So we're not, and I'm not always actively looking for another thing. Right. Like something pops up and I'm like, oh, that might work. Right. So that sort of like, if I have a concept in mind I've been developing for the last 5 years, and, it'll be harder to find the right location to squeeze it in, right? So I think I'm a more flexible in that way.
That's very interesting. Yeah. And you also have Papina Canteen, right, on Granville Island?
Yeah. So that was a concept I had sort of going on with that casualness and smaller scale, smaller footprint, counter service. So that was shortly after Fat Mao and Longtail. I wanted to... I view sort of our restaurant industry as a pyramid. At the very top, you have the very, very fine dinings, which I think in Vancouver, we don't have that many of those. Yeah. True fine dining. Yeah. I'm talking about like per se level type, right? Yeah. Because everyone in Vancouver is quite casual. Like the second tier is like, maybe Mainam, maybe like restaurants that have fine dining background, but they do an everyday kind of menu. So I think Vancouver thrives in this category. Yeah. Most of the good restaurants are in this category. Yeah. Basically you don't want to be a special occasion in this category. You don't want to be a special occasion restaurant. The third category, I think I see it more as sort of like Fat Mao, like a place you can eat every day, right? And then below that, it's like fast food, counter service, fast food. And I think, I was intrigued by sort of Denny Myers and him and his Shake Shack concepts and different things like
Yeah.
that. So it's like, not a lot of people are doing sort of fast food at the time. So, it's me and, at the time, 3 other chef friends that got together and wanted to kind of use local ingredients to do, in our versions, fast food.
Cool.
So that's sort of, that's still going on and it's doing well.
Yeah,
So
I remember when that opened. It was how many years ago
that
now?
was 2018, I think we opened.
Okay,
Yeah.
so pre-COVID.
Yeah.
Very cool. What do you think, you were talking about Vancouver's culinary scene not having a lot of fine dining. What do you think Vancouver's culinary scene has evolved into, or like have you seen any trends change over the years?
Oh, for sure. Like from 2006 when I moved back, there was not a lot of independent small restaurants. I remember Jeff and Geese having Aurora Bistro. I remember at the same time I opened Wang Dan opened Rare up on Hornby, and there's not a lot of independent restaurants. So either you're a big chain, or then there's like the bigger groups. There was like West, there was C, there was but compared to the number of restaurants we have now, right, there's a lot of different concepts and different cuisines are growing too. Like Thai food at that time, there's like maybe 3-4 decent restaurants. Now you can probably name 15, right? And I think that's more and more younger independent operators are trying to get into the business for themselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's like the biggest change.
Yeah.
And that's a really good change.
Yeah. Well, now we have Michelin too, which was new over the past like 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, I think this is going to be the 5th year, I think.
Okay,
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So this restaurant scene has changed a lot, which is awesome. What do you think makes Vancouver unique as a culinary destination compared to maybe Montreal or even Toronto?
Yeah, I think it's so funny because Canada is such a big country and it's such a young country as well, right? In terms of, it doesn't have necessarily one culinary identity as a whole country. Like Montreal food scene is very different to Toronto to here. I think for us, like for the longest time, we pride ourselves on having the greatest selection of Chinese food, and I think we still do. In comparison to the rest of North America, Vancouver is number one by a long shot.
Yeah,
and I've been around to a lot of places. I remember it was like over 10 years ago. I traveled to Hong Kong. I was going to some of the best Chinese restaurants there. I'm like, Vancouver's on par, right? Because we had a lot of those older chefs that immigrated over with the same techniques and stuff. So for the longest time, it was Chinese food, Japanese food, and whatnot. And I think right now, like there's a lot of really good things happening. I think what Gus is doing at Publish and Mikey at Annalena, like I think it really pushes different things. But I think everyone focused on sort of the casualness of Vancouver dining, right? So that's the most important part.
But it's interesting that we can still have these casual dining places, but they still make the Michelin Guide or...
Yeah, and I think maybe Michelin has a slightly different outlines when they go to different cities. They have to appreciate, they have to learn what that city is and what people value, right? So I think that's why Vancouver is like that.
Yep.
But, if you look at sort of the number of really, really good Japanese omakase bars now, I think maybe part of that is Michelin, but a lot of that is really just they're all young chefs. They all have really world-class experiences, and they all want to do something unique. And I think that's something that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
Right? So and that's great that for people of Vancouver to want to dine like that as well.
Yeah, I really feel like we have the best sushi in Canada, maybe even West Coast. Like I've been to LA, I've had sushi there. It's not as good as here.
Yeah, there's a whole range, right? Like I think sushi culture in the last, like, I don't know how many years. I remember going to UBC and I thought Samurai Sushi was good because it was cheap.
Yeah.
Back then it was $3.25 for California rolls. But we do have that wide range. You have the very everyday casual stuff, right? I order takeout from Sashimiya, right?
I love that place.
And it's like you get it and it's so fresh and it's restaurant quality and it's amazing. And you compare that to like the very, very high end scale, right? To the omakase bars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think everything in between, we have a very top tier, world class quality of each. Whereas I
Yep.
think some cities in North America, they tend to maybe lean heavy on one or
Yeah.
another.
Mm-hmm.
We do have a selection of a lot of things.
Yeah, we're very
Mhm.
lucky. I feel like I will never be able to dine at every restaurant in Vancouver. It would take
Yeah.
a lifetime
Yeah.
because we have so many good places. So the hospitality industry can be quite demanding. How do you keep your teams, your multiple teams going? How do you keep them
Yeah, you know
happy?
what? And I think, it's a tough one, right? Because I
Yeah.
mean, we're only as good as our team, and we're only fortunate we're able to open all these new concepts is because we have enough people.
Mm-hmm.
I rarely, I never hire a new chef for an opening of a new restaurant. That person has to be with us for a couple years at least to learn our way, our system.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times they start at Mainom. It's like a bit of an incubator for our chefs. They work through for a couple years, and we know what they're strong at, what they can improve on. Maybe this person could lead a smaller team. Maybe this person can lead a bigger team, whatnot. And that's how we are able to grow. And
Yeah.
I think when it comes down to it, it's empowering them. I don't micromanage, and I sort of let them know what. And I think the restaurant's been around for long enough. People
Yeah.
know the value. People know the system. People know the standard of
Mm-hmm.
what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And I empower them and entrust them to do the things. And I think if they make a mistake, I try to come from a constructive point of view.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the day, you want to treat your team like people and not like machines.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think machines break down and people can get stronger.
Yeah.
So that's that. And also, obviously, we do a lot of little things that other restaurants probably do or other companies do. Like, we do a lot of team bonding
Cute.
moments. For the last few years, for exception of last year, because my wife was injured, we do like a team grouse grind every year,
Nice.
followed by a team luncheon. We do a pretty epic staff party once a year for all the restaurants. We close all the
Nice.
restaurants for one day. So, we do a lot of bonding moments. We'll take them out for lunch whenever they can.
Cute.
So, I think at the end of the day, people come to work, they want to feel like they're valued and that they're doing something important.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes in the past, the places I felt comfortable working at was when the leadership gives me freedom
Yeah.
and trust to do things that I'm supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think one thing I learned from Normand was like he really gave me the room. Like he gave me all these beautiful ingredients and very everybody knows the standard, like in Montreal. And, I was often butchering the whole animals and we would use only the prime cuts. So sometimes I would try to find new ways to use the offcuts, the different things. And I would sort of make it just for him to taste.
Cool.
And sort of developing. And every once in a while, it'll make it on the menu and different things like that. And I felt really empowered, right?
Yeah.
So versus other locations where like I felt like just a small cog in the machine.
Yeah.
Nobody cares if I was happy or unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
I was just expected to produce.
Yep.
That's a slightly different feeling, right? So
No, that's beautiful. And you were saying too, in 2008 we had the crisis and your first restaurant was struggling and you had to pivot. What is it like being a restaurant owner in Vancouver right now, especially with post-COVID and we're kind of entering a recession? How are you standing the test of time?
It's tough. You have to survive. You have to find ways. Like, it sounds kind of bad, but like you got to find ways to survive. And I think for us too, if you compare to my friends and colleagues in the States, we have different growing seasons. For example,
Mm-hmm.
so for example, citrus fruit. They're all coming from either Mexico or California. Like we don't actually get them. So.
Yeah.
For us, we use a lot of limes, and I refuse to use like frozen lime juice or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like or the store bought stuff. Like limes could be like $30 a case one day, and then $180 a case.
Wow.
Like customers don't care about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's not one of those situations where like I go, okay, I can just do a market price on everything on my menu. It doesn't. There's a lot of times you just have to absorb the cost.
Mm-hmm.
But right now, with COVID, with inflation, everything is just so expensive.
Yeah.
Right. I can tell you the rents aren't going down. Right. So it's tough. Minimum wage keeps getting higher and higher, right? Like I remember when we started in 2006, minimum wage was like $7,
Mm.
right? Compared to now,
Yeah.
it's hard. Like it's not like I can increase our food prices by 300%,
Right.
or 200%. And people complain about that. It's like, oh, why is this so expensive? Have you bought groceries? Because if you were to go buy groceries, I cook at home a lot.
Yeah.
I love to cook, and I like to cook for my family. And every time I go to the grocery store, it's like $200-300 for like maybe 2 meals, right?
Mm-hmm.
So people have to understand it. We're not trying to rip you off. We're
Mm-hmm.
trying to honestly price it fairly.
Yeah.
I was in LA a couple of weeks ago, and we didn't go to any Michelin star restaurants. It was just like sort of neighborhood restaurants that we always go to in Pasadena because we have
Nice.
family there. And like every single meal for a table of 4, every single meal, we didn't even get a bottle of wine. Like maybe it was a glass of wine per person. Every single meal was $500 to $700
US.
right?
Right.
For sort of neighborhood type restaurants.
Yeah.
And their cost is much less than us. Their labor is much less than us because in the U.S. economy, their staff depends a lot on tip, which is not necessarily right. Whereas here, we are forced to do them, X amount of wages, and a lot of our food comes from the States. The price keeps going up. It's hard, and we cannot match those prices without customers not coming.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and yes, we are in a recession, and it is hard, and people are valuing, I guess, value when they go out.
Yeah.
So, for sure, and that's part of the reason why I put a pretty strong focus on fat mao, long tail. I think I've been around for 20 years now in this industry in the city, because we opened our first restaurant in 2006.
Yep.
So it was 20 years. And I always say to my wife, Kate, that, I guess it's like a 5-year cycle. Like, it just feels like we'll get started. It starts to get good. We start doing really, really well. And something big happens.
Yeah.
Like housing crisis. And then we rebuild, we keep going, boom. Another recession or another pandemic or something happens. So I think you just have to be flexible and be okay to look in the mirror and sort of make sure you can adapt and change, right? So for us, luckily, when there is a recession, I think people tend to go for value.
Yeah.
So I think the casual brands like Fat Mao, it still does okay. It still does really, really good, right? And I think for Mainon, we just have to maybe change, maybe not force people to take set menus, right? When the economy's bad, we can simplify things a little bit, focus more on doing takeout and doing different things. I think there's obviously ways to survive, but that's really sometimes all it is.
Just adapting, and surviving. Well, it's sad because there's so many long-term restaurants in Vancouver that have had to close this year and last year. Like,
oh yeah, I think in the last 5 years, it's a lot of closure. And, but at the same time, a lot more openings. I think people are daring and people are wanting to get into the market, and it's good for them, right? Like I think there's always room when you do things well. And there's always a demand for quality. I think right now, whenever people think about this, ideal of a recession, as long as if you can look at your product and you think there's value for the customer, I think you'll be okay. And that value it's a sliding word, because like you could offer like a $500 tasting menu per person, but if you think there's value in there, people will still come. Right. Versus, if I do the cheapest fast food, and if it's not done right and not done good, doesn't matter how cheap it is, there's no value in that. So I think as long as if you look at your product and you think there's value for people, and I think you'll do okay. Yeah,
I 100% agree. Looking ahead, what's next for you and your team, and maybe even Fat Mao on Helmkin? What's next?
I think I try not to do too many things at once. Like we just opened Sign-On last year. I want to give it some life to find traction and find sort of its own grounds to stand on, kind of thing, before I go and open another concept or another restaurant. I find that a lot of people, they tend to do things too quickly, and that's how they all fold. And like I like to make sure that all the restaurants are doing well before I think about doing another concept. But I am interested to grow our Fat Mao brand. I do think that, I want to keep a smaller footprint, 25 seat, induction only. I do think it has a very replicable brand.
Yeah.
So that's sort of next on my list. I'm not actively sort of searching, but I do want our newest restaurant to get a bit more traction before I start thinking about it. But
Yep.
I would like to have another Fat Mao and sort of in there, and then probably start to slow down a little bit.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, it's been 20 years, and I don't see myself always opening new places at this pace that I have been in the last maybe 10 years, right? So
Do you have kids?
I have one. Yeah, he's actually second year university now.
Oh, wow.
About to go into second year. Yeah.
Does he love cooking too?
He loves food. He's actually back from Toronto for the summer, so he's been
Nice.
working in all the restaurants. So he's a floater. So he's a turn on. So he'll go to San Pad Thai and be a cashier, and he'll go to Siam and be a dishwasher, or he'll go to Fat Mao and be a dishwasher slash server assistant, and he'll go to Mainam and wash dishes or help. So he'll help out, and he was pretty proud the other day, and because he was working at San Pad Thai in Granville Island, and he was like, oh, like there's a lot of tourists right now because I get all these like Chinese tourists coming up. They don't speak English, and they asked me to speak Chinese to them, so I did. I'm like, oh, that's good. He's like, well, and then shortly after, there was like a Thai person came up, and they didn't speak English, and I had to speak Thai. So he speaks
That's awesome.
Chinese and Thai, right? So
Cool.
So I was like, oh, it's good that you're getting different experiences, right?
Yeah.
So he's getting a little bit of customer service experience. He's getting a little bit of the dirty work experience of restaurants, right? Because I told the staff, I'm like, let him take out the garbage. Don't baby him. Like, just let him do everything.
No nepotism here.
Yeah, he needs to learn, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, he's been doing good. So I think it's good for him.
Yeah.
He likes it. I don't necessarily want him to take over or do it. Like I want him to go get his own experience.
Yeah.
And if maybe 10, 15 years down the road, he's like, oh, like I want to come back and do what you do, and then you can do it then. But I don't want him to grow up in my restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very nice of you as a father, because I feel like lots of family businesses, the parents want you to take over, but
not me, man. It's not like, I mean, I'd be okay when I'm ready to retire and just give the keys to someone else.
Aww.
It's totally okay with
yeah,
me.
Fair enough.
But if he wants to do it, then I want him to get other experiences first.
Yeah.
Because I think, what's the point of you doing it if you're just going to do it my way? I want him to kind of eventually learn from other people, learn from other businesses, other parts of the world, travel the way I traveled, and then eventually have his own ideas. And when if he wants to do it, then he can have his own mind about it. Yeah.
It's very important. There's a lot of tourists coming. And by the time this comes out, FIFA might be over already, but someone visiting Vancouver for the first time, what do you hope they experience, not just in your restaurants, but also just in Vancouver as a whole?
I've lived in a lot of different places, and I lived in London, Montreal, New York. Like I traveled a lot, and I've always thought of Vancouver as my home. I've always wanted to come back, and for the reason it's just like it's a beautiful place. And for people that come, obviously we have good restaurants, but especially this time of the year, it's just so beautiful. Go for a hike, go to the North Shore. If you can't do the grouse grind, go do the Curry Rock or something, because it's pretty breathtaking. And people don't realize that's our backyard. I'm on my bike a lot. I ride quite often, and I'm just like I'm in awe at the amount of places I get to enjoy, scenery wise, difficulty wise. Like it's pretty world class here. So I would encourage people to obviously just enjoy the outdoors. Obviously, people love to shop, and there's a lot of shopping here. But I can tell you, most of the high-end stores in Vancouver will be the same as other places.
True.
But, go out, spend money on restaurants, cafes, support the small businesses. We do have a lot of really cool small restaurants, small coffee shops, and the outdoor scenes. Go for a couple of hikes. Go for a run around the seawall or something like that. I think nowhere else offers that better than we do in terms of proximity to the city, right? And as well, if you could afford it, hire a boat, go fishing. Like it's funny because I always tell people, explain to me Vancouver. It's like, well, not many places in the world can offer you. Well, obviously not this season, but you could ski, golf, fish in the same day.
It's crazy.
Right? Like you can't do that. Like obviously we're in the summer, so you can't go night skiing. But I tell people a lot, like, if I meet someone in Bangkok, they're like, tell me about Vancouver. I'm like, name me a place that you can go skiing, fish, golf in the same day. Like you can do that here.
Yeah.
Which is pretty shocking.
It is shocking.
Yeah.
One final question. Outside of your own restaurants, what is your favorite restaurant downtown?
That's pretty easy. Like, I mean, I'm a creature of habit. I go to the same restaurants and I support my friends. And, Chupino's used to be like in Yaletown, one of my favorites because Pino was a dear friend. Obviously, he's retired.
Mm-hmm.
Boulevard at some places.
I love Boulevard.
Yeah, I mean, I just had dinner with Roger and his son Jordan a couple of days ago in
Nice.
Siam, and we go there a lot. Actually, it's like every birthday, every anniversary, we held our staff party. Like the whole group, like all the restaurants we closed, and we held our staff party at Boulevard for like 3 years in a row.
Nice.
And we just go there, and it's the type of restaurant that's sort of very Vancouver. You can go there for like a really nice high-end tasting menu. Roger will cook for you. You can go there for, a casual cocktail in a seafood tower.
Their seafood tower is the
it just seems like it's very Vancouver, right? Like
Yeah.
I think Vancouver is about that. Like they don't want to be fixated into one small category.
Yeah.
Because we don't have to market for like true fine dining.
Mm-hmm.
So if you build a restaurant that's like per se, that's like, $700 tasting menus, it's going to be hard for you.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have flexibility and you have value, then I think it's like that. So I go there a lot. That would be my pick. Yeah.
Nice. I go there for every birthday too. Because
Okay.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with
I
the
don't want
seafood
to
tower.
label it as a special occasion restaurant because we go there. I was just there on Friday for a cocktail and
Nice.
a plate of pasta for actually a business meeting. So
Lovely.
it's sort of a every occasion restaurant for us. Yeah.
There's a lot of every occasion
Mhm.
restaurants in Vancouver, which is great. So great to meet you. This conversation made me really hungry.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to eating later. But
Yeah.
thank you so much for coming on. It was an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Hey Downtown Van. We really hope you enjoyed today's episode with Chef Angus. If you'd like to learn more about our organization and all that we do, you can visit our website, dtvan.ca, follow along with the podcast at Hey Downtown Van, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you for listening.